Are you Kayla?
Yes, I am.
Daddy is in the big silver car outside. He is on a very important phone call. 16 minutes.
She thought she'd been stood up. That another attempt at love had crumbled before it even began. But when two 6-year-olds marched through that coffee shop door with a mission in their eyes and secrets on their lips, everything changed. They weren't supposed to be there. Their father had no idea, and what they were about to reveal would turn a failed date into the beginning of something neither she nor he ever saw coming. Kayla Emerson checked her phone for the 7th time in 3 minutes. 6:47, 17 minutes late. She sat alone at the corner table of the Maple Avenue coffee shop, her fingers wrapped around a ceramic mug of chamomile tea that had long since gone cold. The autumn warmth that usually made this place feel cozy now felt suffocating. Around her, couples leaned into whispered conversations, their laughter punctuating the soft jazz playing overhead. She was the only person sitting alone. Kayla told herself she'd give him 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. And then she'd text Diane, her colleague, who'd set this whole thing up, and tell her that blind dates just weren't her thing. That after 2 years of focusing solely on her veterinary practice, maybe she wasn't ready. Maybe she'd been right to keep her walls up. Just one coffee date, Diane had insisted 3 days ago. Cornering Kayla in the clinic break room, his name is Matthew Caldwell, 34, architectural engineer, and Kayla, he's wonderful. Trust me, but trust was hard. And sitting here watching the door, feeling that familiar sting of disappointment creeping in, trust felt impossible. At 6:51 p.m., the bell above the door chimed. Kayla looked up, hope flickering despite herself. But it wasn't a man in his 30s. It wasn't Matthew Caldwell. It was 2 identical little girls. They couldn't have been more than 6 years. Old with curly brown hair that bounced as they moved, and bright. Green eyes that scanned the coffee shop with startling determination. They wore matching red jackets over what looked like school uniforms. Their small hands clasped together as they surveyed the room. And then those eyes landed on Kayla with a silent, unified nod. They began marching directly toward her table. Kayla glanced around, expecting a frazzled parent to rush in after them. But the door remained closed. The girls came to a stop just beside her table, their serious faces peering over the edge at her cooling tea. "Are you Kayla?" the one on the left asked, her voice clear and precise. "Yes," Kayla said, too surprised to lie. "I am. Can I help you girls?" "Are you lost?" "We are not lost," the same girl stated. "I'm Chloe. This is my sister Sophie. We are here about the date." Kayla blinked, her mind struggling to process the words. "The date?" Sophie, who had been studying Kayla intently, gave a small, decisive smile. "Daddy's date. With you, he is very late. We are sorry. He is not usually late." "Your daddy," Kayla repeated slowly, a cold dread mixing with her confusion. "Is your daddy Matthew Caldwell?" Both girls nodded in perfect unison. "He's in the big silver car outside," Chloe explained, pointing a thumb over her shoulder toward the street. "He is on a very important phone call for work. He's been on it for 16 minutes. He told us to wait, but we decided to come and find you so you would not be alone and sad." Kayla's heart gave a complicated squeeze, a pang of sympathy for the girls, earnestness, a flare of annoyance at their father's negligence, and a deep unsettling bewilderment. "He brought you? On a first date?" Sophie shook her head, her curls bouncing. "No, that would be silly. We were supposed to be at Mrs. Lawson's house for dinner and ballet, but she has a big sneeze today, so we had to come with Daddy. He said it would be only a little while, and we could play games on his phone in the car. But then the work call happened, and you were waiting." The story tumbled out with the flawless logic of childhood, and it painted a picture Kayla wished she couldn't see. A man who was not only late, but had brought his children to a blind date, left them unattended in a car, and was now oblivious to the fact that they had taken matters into their own tiny hands. The flicker of hope she'd felt for Matthew Caldwell extinguished completely. This was worse than being stood up. This was a spectacular, catastrophic display of poor judgment. "Well," Kayla said, forcing a gentle tone she used with nervous pet owners, "thank you for coming to find me. That was very kind. But you really shouldn't be in here alone. Let's go back out to the car and let your dad know where you are, okay? But your tea is cold, Chloe observed, frowning at the mug. You should have a new one. Daddy says being late is rude, and you should have a hot drink. Before Kayla could stop her, Chloe turned and headed with purpose toward the counter, where a bemused barista was watching the scene unfold. Sophie leaned closer to Kayla, her small voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. We have a secret, she said, her green eyes wide, about why we really came in. Oh, Kayla asked, humoring her. Her own focus split between the girl at her table and the one now gesturing seriously at the barista. We came to see if you were nice, Sophie confessed. Daddy has dates sometimes. Some are not nice. They smile at him but not at us. One lady said we were a package deal, like it was a bad thing. We don't like that. The blunt honesty felt like a punch to Kayla's gut. Her annoyance at Matthew wavered, replaced by a surge of protective warmth for these two small evaluators of character. "Oh, that's a terrible thing to say," Kayla said softly. "You are definitely not a bad thing." Sophie's smile returned, brighter this time. "We thought you might be nice. You look like you have a kind face, like Dr. Evans, who fixed Mrs. Lawson's dog when it ate the sparkly shoe." Kayla couldn't help but laugh, the sound surprising her. "I'm a vet, actually. I fix animals, too." Sophie's mouth formed a perfect O of awe, just as Chloe returned. Clutching a fresh mug of steaming tea with both hands, her tongue caught between her teeth in concentration. "For you," Chloe announced, carefully setting it down. "It's chamomile again. The lady said that's what you had before." Touched beyond measure, Kayla accepted the mug. "Thank you, Chloe. That's very thoughtful." Both girls beamed, then exchanged a look that spoke of silent communication. They climbed into the two empty chairs opposite her, settling in as if they were staying. Panic, faint but real, shot through Kayla. This was not her responsibility. These were not her children. She needed to extract herself now. "Okay, my brave rescuers," Kayla said, sipping the hot tea. "Let's go find your dad before he worries." "He won't be worried yet," Chloe said with the confidence of experience. "His work calls are very long. He gets a wrinkle here." She pressed a finger between her own eyebrows. "And he doesn't see other things." At that moment, the coffee shop door burst open, and a man stumbled in, his gaze wild and frantic. His eyes swept the room and landed on their table. The relief that flooded his face was immediately followed by sheer, unadulterated horror. He was undeniably handsome, tousled brown hair, those same bright green eyes, a sharp jaw currently clenched in anxiety. He wore a dark sweater and jeans, and he looked, in a word, wrecked. "Chloe, Sophie!" His voice was a strained whisper yell as he hurried over, ignoring the stares from other patrons. "What are you doing?" "I told you to wait in the car." He reached them, his hands coming to rest on the backs of their chairs, his chest rising and falling rapidly. Then his eyes lifted to meet Kayla's. The horror deepened into mortification. "Oh no. Kayla, I am so sorry. The call, it was an international client. A crisis on a site, and I thought they were playing a game on the tablet." He was babbling. Kayla sat perfectly still, holding his gaze, letting him flounder. The part of her that was a professional, that dealt with crises daily, observed him clinically. The panic was real. The shame was real. But so was the fact that he'd left two children in a car on a busy street. The girls introduced themselves. Kayla said, her voice calm and even, a stark contrast to his. "And they brought me fresh tea. They were concerned I'd been stood up." Matthew Caldwell closed his eyes for a brief second, as if in pain. When he opened them, they were filled with a devastating mixture of apology and self-recrimination. "Kayla, I can't even begin to... This is not... I would never normally..." He looked at his daughters, who were watching him with innocent, unblinking eyes. "Why did you come in?" Sophie, ever the spokesperson for their secret mission, said plainly, "We had to see if she was nice, Daddy, and she is. She's a vet like Dr. Evans, and she was sitting all alone looking sad. You were late." Each word was a gentle, precise hammer blow. Matthew ran a hand through his hair. "I know I was late. I'm so sorry." He turned his full attention back to Kayla. "Please, let me make this up to you. Let me explain. Can we start this over?" Kayla looked at him. She looked at the two little girls, their faces hopeful. Their earlier determination softened into what looked like affection. They had, in their bizarre intervention, made her feel seen and cared for in a way her date had not. They had turned her disappointment into a strange, warm moment of connection. But they were not the point. He was, and he had failed the first test spectacularly. Yet as she prepared to deliver the polite but firm dismissal she had rehearsed in her mind for the last 20 minutes, something stopped her. It wasn't his handsome, anguished face. It was the package deal comment Sophie had mentioned. It was the way these girls had felt the need to vet her for kindness. It was the genuine, unscripted apology in his eyes that seemed to be for more than just this evening's debacle. It was the fact that for the first time in years, a date hadn't been about awkward small talk and forced smiles. It had been about cold tea replaced by hot, about a secret mission, about two little girls judging her character and finding it acceptable. Her walls, so carefully maintained, had been bypassed completely by a pair of 6-year-olds. "Daddy," Chloe said, breaking the tense silence. "Can we stay? We're hungry." Mrs. Lawson's sneeze meant no pasta. Matthew looked helplessly at Kayla, a silent question in his eyes. This was her call. Her escape was simple. A smile, a no harm done, a graceful exit. She could still hear Diane's voice. "He's wonderful, trust me." Kayla took a final sip of the tea Chloe had brought her. It was perfect. She set the mug down and addressed the girls. "Well," she said, a small, real smile touching her lips, "I suppose if your dad promises the work calls are done for the night, and if this cafe has some pasta or something equally non-sneeze related, then we could have a very unconventional first meeting." Sophie clapped her hands softly. Chloe's grin threatened to split her face. Matthew stared at Kayla, stunned, as if she'd just spoken in a celestial language. Are you serious?" Kayla nodded, the decision solidifying as she spoke it. "But," she added, holding up a finger, her tone leaving no room for argument, "you are paying, and you are ordering the most extravagant dessert on the menu for these two master negotiators. And you are going to tell me, from the beginning, exactly how your life led to this moment where your children had to save your date." The relief that washed over Matthew Caldwell was so profound it seemed to physically alter him. The tension bled from his shoulders, and his smile, tentative and grateful, reached those green eyes, making them shine. "That," he said, pulling out the remaining chair and sinking into it, his gaze never leaving hers, "is the easiest and most deserved sentence I've ever received. Thank you." He signaled a waiter. As he began to order drinks and inquire about pasta, Kayla sat back watching the three of them, the flustered, handsome father and his two tiny, formidable allies. This was not the quiet, awkward coffee she had prepared for. This was chaos. This was complicated. This was a package deal she had never imagined. And as Chloe leaned over and whispered, "See, we told you he was sorry," Kayla felt not the crumbling of an attempt at love, but the unexpected, unsteady, and utterly intriguing first tremor of something beginning. Matthew ordered 2 large bowls of fettuccine alfredo, a coffee for himself, and, true to Kayla's decree, 3 slices of the cafe's towering chocolate caramel cake. As the waiter left, a new, different tension settled over the table, not of awkwardness, but of impending explanation. The girls, now official members of the gathering, swung their legs contentedly under their chairs. Matthew took a steadying breath, his hands wrapped around his coffee mug. "From the beginning," Kayla reminded him gently, but her eyes held a firmness that said she expected nothing less than the truth. He nodded. "Right, the beginning. I'm a single dad, have been for 4 years now. The twins were 2. Their mom, Elise, she's not in the picture. She left, and it was her choice to go without contact. It's just been the 3 of us ever since." He said it plainly, a fact etched into their lives, but Kayla saw the faint shadow that passed behind his eyes. "I'm sorry," she said, and meant it. He shrugged, a gesture that tried and failed to be casual. "We manage. My work is demanding, but I have a good support system, usually. Mrs. Lawson, my retired neighbor, is an angel. She helps after school when I'm held up. Today, she woke up with a terrible sinus attack, couldn't stop sneezing. I couldn't in good conscience leave the girls with her. The backup sitter fell through. I had to cancel on you, but Diane, your friend, my colleague, she can be very persuasive." A slight smile touched his lips. "She said you were amazing, that you'd understand a last-minute change. I was going to call, to suggest maybe bringing the girls along somewhere more kid-friendly. But then the client from Singapore called, a structural issue on a video call that couldn't wait. I pulled over here, thinking I'd be 2 minutes. I told the girls to sit tight. I was so focused on solving the problem I lost track of time. It was a massive failure of multitasking, and I am more sorry than I can say." He looked at his daughters, his expression soft. "But I should have known better. They're not sit-tight people. We are explorers," Sophie stated, twirling a napkin. "And we saw the lady sitting alone through the window," Chloe added. "She looked like the sad kitten in the poster at the library." Kayla felt a lump in her throat. The simplicity of their observation disarmed her completely. "So you launched a rescue mission," Kayla said, her voice soft. "Exactly," both girls said in unison. The food arrived, punctuating the moment. As the girls tucked into their pasta with focused delight, Matthew continued, his voice lower. "What they said earlier about the package deal comment, that happened. It's hard. Dating as a single parent feels like navigating a minefield. I'm not just looking for someone for me. I'm looking for someone who can understand that these two are my entire world. And they..." He glanced at them, his love so palpable it was like a warmth radiating from him. "They're protective. They have a sixth sense for people who aren't genuine. I should have listened to them more in the past." He met Kayla's gaze. "They've never intervened like this before. They must have really wanted to make sure I didn't mess this up." Kayla listened, swirling her spoon in her tea. The story was messy, real, and achingly human. It spoke of responsibility, of love, of trying and failing and trying again. It was nothing like the polished, pressure-filled dates she'd endured before. "Why did you agree to a blind date?" she asked, genuinely curious. "Diane talks about you all the time at work," he admitted, a faint blush tinging his cheeks. "Not just that you're a vet, but how you handled a crisis when a client brought in a badly injured stray dog on your day off, how you volunteer at the animal shelter. She said you were the kindest, most capable person she knew, but that you'd built a fortress around yourself after a bad relationship. It sounded familiar. I guess I hoped maybe we'd understand that about each other." His honesty was disarming. Kayla's own walls, which had felt so necessary and solid just an hour ago, now felt like transparent glass. He could see them, and he wasn't trying to break them down. He was just acknowledging they were there, from the outside. "She talks too much," Kayla murmured, but she was smiling. They ate, the conversation shifting to lighter topics. The girls told Kayla about their school hamster, Mr. Whiffles, and Kayla shared stories about a parrot that could mimic a car alarm. Matthew spoke about designing libraries, his passion for creating spaces full of light. Kayla found herself laughing, genuinely laughing, at a story about Sophie trying to use permanent marker to give Chloe matching eyebrows. The failed date had transformed into something else entirely, a genuine, warm, chaotic connection. When the colossal desserts arrived, the girls' eyes went wide with joy. As they dug in, chocolate smearing their cheeks, Matthew leaned closer to Kayla. "This is the best first non-date I've ever had," he said quietly, his green eyes sincere. "Thank you for not running for the hills." "The hills didn't seem as interesting," Kayla replied, holding his gaze. The promise of something new, something real, flickered between them. An hour later, pasta bowls empty and cake demolished, it was time to go. Matthew settled the bill with an extravagant tip, as ordered. They all walked out into the crisp autumn evening together. The silver car was parked just outside. Matthew helped. The girls into their car seats, buckling them in with a practiced tenderness that did not go unnoticed by Kayla. He closed the door and turned to her. "Kayla," he began, shoving his hands in his pockets. "I know I don't deserve a second chance at a first impression, but would you let me try a proper date? No work calls, no tiny chaperones, just dinner?" Kayla looked past him into the car. Chloe and Sophie were waving at her through the window, their faces bright and hopeful. She looked back at Matthew, at his earnest, anxious expression. The fortress around her heart didn't crumble. It simply opened a gate. "Yes," she said. "I'd like that. But on one condition. Anything. Next time the girls come too. Maybe to the park, or somewhere they can run around. I'd like to see them again." The smile that broke across Matthew's face was brighter than the streetlights. "That," he said, "is the best condition I've ever heard." He pulled out his phone and they exchanged numbers. As Kayla walked to her own car, she felt a lightness she hadn't known in years. She hadn't just been on a date. She'd been audited by two 6-year-olds and found worthy. She'd seen a man at his most flustered and witnessed his deep, abiding love for his children. It was not a perfect beginning. It was a messy, human, beautiful one. She drove home. The memory of secret whispering lips and mission-focused green eyes playing in her mind. It was the beginning of something neither she nor he ever saw coming. And for the first time in a long time, Kayla Emerson looked forward to what came next. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story of unexpected connections and second chances, please show your support for Kindness True Stories. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt tales that travel right to your screen. Your engagement helps us bring more stories to life. Until next time.